Joining us on the line now is Sharron Sumner. Sharon, can you hear me?
I can, Henry. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sharon is, of course, an independent Liberal Democrat councillor for Alexandra Ward. Sharon, of course, we've spoken about your resignation, so we won't talk about that on the group because that's all been covered in the past. But one thing I want to talk to you about is this whole Brexit debate that happened at Kingston Council last night. Did you attend?
Yes, I did. But let's address the elephant in the room. It wasn't really a debate. I would say it was. There's nobody representing the views of the 38% of people that voted to leave in the referendum, which I thought was quite a shame. It was more of a university-style seminar where everyone on the panel was a Remainer.
Were they all Remainers?
Yeah, they were. Yes.
So who was on the panel? Was anyone of note who was on the panel itself?
Well, regardless, there were some excellent people on the panel. There was a lovely Abby who was representing the young people of Kingston. She spoke fabulously well. She was very articulate and was really confident. Patricia Turner, who's the CEO of Kingston Voluntary Action Group, was on the panel as well. The chair of the panel was I believe, the Vice Dean of Kingston University, but I may have a title wrong, I'm afraid. I don't have the full list in front of me, but I can get it for you if you like.
Okay. So, obviously, there was this talk about, debate allegedly about the future of the Kingston Council in the face of Brexit and whether that poses any challenges. Now, it's worth pointing out, Sharon, that, of course, you heavily, campaigned for Remain, you voted Remain, and you've been very open about that in the past, and indeed, as a Liberal Democrat member, I'd expect nothing less than someone who wanted to vote Remain. But were you a bit disappointed then that it didn't kind of feature anyone who voted for the other side?
Yeah, I really do. I think, as we've already spoken about, Alexandra, the ward that I represent, for example, in that ward, it was closer to a 50-50 split between Leave and Remain in the referendum. And I just feel I might not always agree with what Brexiteers have to say in their point of view, but I would really like to hear what they had to say last night. I think if you're going to have a debate, it's important that we listen to both sides. Otherwise, we're not going to get nearer to any consensus here. It would have made for a healthier, a more interesting debate to have both sides of the argument actually represented. And it was just made for, I would think, a rather stale debate. Some good points were made. There were some good topics that were made. For example, as I've already said, Patricia Turner of Kingston Voluntary Action, I found her particularly good. She discussed how disenfranchised large portions of the population were and how that led to the Leave vote. And until politicians address that and look at why they voted Leave, any referendum that we may or may not have would continue to be close in the future, which would just lead to more fractions between the two sides.
And am I right in saying the Kingston Conservatives didn't attend the event?
Yes, they did. They tweeted to say that they were going to go litter picking instead.
Fair enough. I mean, were you tempted in a way to follow their lead and not attend the event, or were you always going to go?
No, I was always going to go. I do have a small amount of sympathy for why they didn't attend, because to have an unbalanced debate really doesn't seem fair. And personally, I would have preferred a State of the Borough debate on a topic which myself as a councillor and resident could actually have some influence on, or direct influence. For example, last year's, I believe, was on growth. So I do have some sympathy, but I was always going to attend because I feel it is my duty as a representative, and I've been voted to be a representative to actually attend and attend the event and see what has to be said.
The second part of the evening, I believe, was a motion meaning that Kingston Council now supports a people's vote. Is that right? Yes,
it was, yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would welcome a people's vote. Personally, I think it would be a good move forward. But again, I would echo what Patricia Turner said last night. I think until politicians actually look at the reason why large portions of the population decided to vote for Leave. For example, I'm from North Yorkshire. I'm from rural North Yorkshire. So there's a large percentage of people in those areas that did vote for Leave. And until politicians actually address why people did vote for Leave and talk about these issues openly, but having a referendum isn't going to solve anything, because if we have a referendum and it's too close to call again, there isn't a large majority. I think we're just going to end up having referendum after referendum. So I would like a people's vote. I would like to have a second referendum, but some work needs to go into understanding why large portions of people did actually vote to leave.
And the motion itself, do you know what that actually means then? So does it mean that Kingston Council now campaigns for a people's vote, or does it mean that, what does the motion actually mean itself?
The motion itself said that part of it, they were going to set up a committee as part of the Strategic Finance Committee, which will look at how Kingston's businesses will be affected by Brexit. And it also said that the other part of it was that they would vote to both MPs, Zach Goldsmith and Sir Edward Davey, asking them to support the people's vote.
Well, I don't think that letter to Zach Goldsmith is going to go particularly well.
I couldn't possibly say.
Sharron Sumner, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Henry.